hello! It's part 2 out of 3 of Fact Me Up's guide to Brighton's quirky links with the EU nations. Roll titles. France. From Stray Cats to the Fatboy Slims, lots of acts have recorded songs about Brighton, but Fact Me Up's favourite is one sung not in English but mostly French. Written by legendary Gallic crooner Serge Gainsbourg for his then muse, the English performer Jane Birkin, Les Beignets de Brighton was released in 1973. It name-checks the Pavilion, the Pier, Kemp Town, even Whitehawk. Strangely, the video for the song, which is viewable on the YouTubes, was filmed not in Brighton, but on a desolate sandy beach. Boo! Germany. Let's talk about Arnold Rouge, who, born in 1802 on an island off the coast of Prussia, i.e. Germany, he was jailed for 14 years for organising student protests. Whilst in prison, he started studying the works of Plato. Yes, we bought a Plato finger puppet. No idea what we're going to do with it, but, you know, we've got it. On his release, he became a philosopher himself and joined the Young Hegelians. And we've even got a Hegel one as well. Also Kant and Nietzsche, but they're not actually in this story. Rouge became big mates with Karl Marx and organised the far-left group in the first ever German parliament. He eventually had to flee to England. More specifically to 7 Park Crescent, Brighton, where he lived from 1850 until his death 30 years later. For 20 of those years, Rouge was chair of the Park Crescent Residents Association. He also took up gardening and helped to maintain the level. Quite a change of pace for someone who had run pan-European political organisations. Shamefully, there is no blue plaque to him on his former home. We're going to complain about that to Park Crescent Residents Association. Greece. There's a big campaign underway at the moment to raise money to save Madeira Terrace. What does this have to do with Greece? Well, one key element of it, the longest cast iron structure in the world, is the keystones. These feature Aphrodite and Poseidon, the Greek deities of love and the sea. In a city whose architecture seems far more inspired by Indian or Egyptian motifs, it feels extra shameful that Brighton's most prominent neoclassical Greek figures are at such risk. Plato says, see the link description for details of how to donate. Hungary. The Hungarian actor Bela Lugosi is most widely known for his various performances of Dracula. In 1951 he arrived in the UK for a theatre tour of it, which began with 8 performances at Brighton's Theatre Royal. This week was so chaotic and farcical that a Radio 4 play, Bella in Brighton, would later be made about it. The director quit after the opening night, so Lugosi himself took over directing. The other actors turned out to be amateurs, hired on the cheap. Bela never got paid and was trying to cover up the fact that he was now half blind, half deaf and addicted to morphine. The lighting company forgot to send someone down to operate the stage lights, so a makeup person had to do it, whilst the smoke machine used for the fog effects was so toxic that actors were passing out during the performances. Oops. Ireland. Although the Irish Free State, the forerunner of modern Ireland, didn't come into existence until 30 years after his death, Charles Stewart Parnell laid much of the groundwork for it. He was MP for Cork City and leader of both the Home Rule League and the Irish Parliamentary Party. His political career came unstuck due to an affair with a fellow MP's wife, the salacious details of which the English press lapped up. It was she, Kitty O'Shea, who drew him to Hove. They wed in June 1891, living first at 8 Madeira Terrace, then 10 Walsingham Terrace, which is now the site of Dorset Court. It's there that he died of pneumonia, aged 45, barely 3 months after the wedding. Italy. Brighton has become a very popular filming location for Italian pop videos in recent years. Spare a thought then for Gigliola Cinquetta, Italy's entrant in the 1974 Eurovision Song Contest. Although she finished a very close second to ABBA at Brighton Dome, nobody back home got to see or hear her sing. Italian broadcasters banned the track, Si, which largely consisted of the Italian word for yes being repeated over and over again, because there was an upcoming yes-no referendum on whether to legalise divorce, and it was feared the song might influence voters. Latvia. Fact Me Up is broadening its geographic scope a little with this one. This is the story of a visitor from Latvia that didn't actually make it to Brighton. Perhaps the bat signal wasn't strong enough, but still deserves acknowledging. It's a tiny pipistrel bat that in October 2015 landed in Rye Harbour, just into the county of Sussex. It had flown from a nature reserve in southwest Latvia, a journey of around 905 miles that is regarded as the longest journey by a bat of that type in the entire history of space and time. Whoa. Lithuania. November 2003 saw the Brighton Centre host one of the biggest sporting events in the city's history. It was in the Euro Cup of basketball, and the Brighton Bears were hosting Lietuvos Rytas from the Lithuanian capital Vilnius. Around 800 Lithuanian fans travelled over for the game, which their side won after a sterling Brighton fight back by a very narrow 64 to 62 points. Remarkably, Brighton would actually win the reverse fixture in Vilnius a few weeks later. It was Brighton's greatest ever season in Europe. Luxembourg. The greatest event in Brighton's cultural history, ABBA winning Eurovision at the Dome, wouldn't have happened without Luxembourg. The tiny country, technically Grand Duchy, won the contest in 1972. The winner has to host the following year at their own expense. They accidentally won it again, couldn't afford to host 2 years in a row, so begged someone to take the 1974 contest off their hands. Step forward, the BBC and the Brighton Dome. Hurrah! Next week on Fact Me Up, from Malta to Sweden, the rest of the European onion is unravelled.